channel. Today we're going to be going over my StamDk. So let's go over stats real fast, right? These are all unbuffed, so you can kind of get a glimpse. The food that we're running: lava foot soup, lady stone. This is coming in from our set, and 45 into health, into stamina. The reason why we're doing this is because we're trying to have as much stamina as possible, and as well having as much health. And because we're running lava foot soup, this helps us out with the sustain. Obviously, these numbers are unbuffed, so we're doing pretty well, all things considered. And as well, we don't have undaunted passives yet on this tune, so when I do have undaunted passives, these will look a lot better. But until then, that's what we're looking at. Going into the race, I'm a Nord, so I'm getting max health, frost resistance, max stamina. I'm getting ultimate whenever I take damage, and then I'm getting resistance. This stacks with me being a DK, because being a DK, you're getting a lot of damage mitigation and resistance coming in naturally, right? So it's the wrong one. But in this tree right here, scaled armor, this passive grants you resistance. Alright, and then iron skin also grants you 10% damage mitigation when you're blocking, which coincides very well because I'm getting roughly 4,000 resistance just for being a DK, while also being able to stack that with a major resolve, which obviously you're getting through volatile armor. So in total, very good way to get a lot of resistance. And plus we're running the lady stone, that's granting us even more resistance. So let's get into the skills. Let's get into the gear. Vampire cloak. This set recently was changed. I don't know when exactly it was changed, but when it was changed up this set really well. I don't have this gear fully golded out, so that's why the number isn't as nice as it actually would be. But getting health, weapon damage, and then minor protection at all times whenever I'm on the front bar is very, very good. When I'm on my back bar, I'm running Vashran 2-hand, greatsword for better healing power, because this passes with the 2-hand that if you're running a mace, you get more pen, running a sword, you get more heals. But when I am on my back bar, I'm getting a lot more weapon damage simply by activating rally. So for the most part, me activating rally grants me a stack of frenzy momentum. Well, I have to be in combat, but when I'm in combat and I activate rally, whenever I'm casting any stamina abilities, it's going to grant me a stack. This is increasing my weapon damage. Later on it'll be 30, right now it's only 29, and that can be increased by 10. After 5 stacks, whenever I do a heavy attack, it consumes all the stacks and does AoE damage, which I put into my combo. So very strong set. That's how we're stacking up a lot of our damage very quickly. Battle Orcs as well is how we're stacking up damage, because you can easily combo Vatashrine and Battle Orcs together to get a whole bunch of weapon damage and then drop that heavy attack with another skill as well. And then Retro Vitality. So Retro Vitality is our sustain set, while also technically being our defense and offensive set. So Retro Vitality is Retro Vitality. It's granting us all of our recovery. We're getting 2 pieces of recovery, 1 mag, 1 stam, weapon damage, and then whenever I apply any major or minor buffs or debuffs to the target, I'm gaining either 260 mag in stam recovery or 130 mag in stam recovery for 15 seconds, which skills like rally procs that, but we'll get into that later. So I'm running 4 divines and 2 well fitted with reinforced. I know I'm supposed to have reinforced on the chest, but when I was making this I already had a reinforced helmet for some reason, so I just kept it. So that's how I'm running it. I'm running all blue. Nope. Running 2 blue and 1 purple. Once I get this all to purple, it'll be looking a lot nicer. But I'm having all my traits being infused on my jewelry with weapon damage. So when this is all golded out, this will be granting me a total of 813 weapon damage just for running jewelry infused. So this grants you the most amount of weapon damage possible, which also stacks with me running Retro Vitality, because I don't have to worry about where my stam recovery is. I also don't have to worry too much about my mag recovery either. even though I'm a stam tune and I'm stacking into that. So with all things being said and done, the way this build is working is really good. And as well, on my body, I'm running all max stamina glyphs because I need to get my stamina up as high as possible. None of my sets are granting me any type of max stamina, so literally everything is coming in through my food, through even is coming in through very select things, coming in through my attributes, and then finally through my enchantments. So that's how my stamina is working. As well, by me running medium armor, I'm getting access to shuffle, which grants me 20% damage mitigation from AoE attacks, and also snare removing, snare immunity alongside immobilization immunities. So very, very strong. This right here is really nice. Increased movement speed as well is really good. Considering that we don't have a major brutality, a major expedition, this is helping us out. And as well, getting some stam recovery and reducing the cost of our abilities by 10%. So in total, everything's comboing well. And as well, getting some max health from Juggernaut passives is really good to help us out, considering that we don't have our Dalton passives yet. And then finally, let's get really into these skills, right? So Dizzying Swing, pretty standard skill. So whenever you're in 7 meters of a target and you activate the skill, you slam a hit him for 9,000 physical damage. Now, this is unbuffed. When we start buffing, it'll be a lot better. Shattering Rocks. This is our stun, so the way that we work the combo is hit him with a Dizzying Swing, and then you hit him with Shattering Rocks. The reason why we want to do that is because after you hit him with the Shattering Rocks, you then stun him up, deal damage, and get heals from that. So you're able to stay on your front bar a lot more than usual in case, say, you was using Fossilize or a different skill entirely. Molten Whip. This is our first execute that we're going to be using on this tune. So the way this works is I'll have to be using this skill, which I'll get into in a moment, in order to proc this. So whenever you use a different Ardent Flame ability, you gain a stack of Seething Fury, increasing the damage of your next Molten Whip by 33% and increasing your weapon spell damage by 75 for 10 seconds, and this stacks up 3 times, meaning you can increase the damage of your Molten Whip by 99% while also gaining 225 weapon and spell damage. Very, very strong skill. And the reason why it's our first execute is because if we time this up perfectly, we can easily hit tunes for 8-9k. Now, I'm talking about really tough tunes. The highest I've hit people for is about a 15k. That's me. This is the highest I've ever hit somebody with. So, all things considered, pretty strong. You know, Executor is after we use the Molten Whip. So after the Molten Whip's hit, we can then hit him with another execute. So if everything goes according to plan, this will hit for, say, 8k, and then this will hit for 9k/10k, comboing together. That's how I plan to work this build. Now, Noxious Breath is our last skill. This is our debuff. So to really get into the full combo of this, you first run over to the target and activate Noxious Breath. Then you activate Dizzying Swing. Then you activate Shattering Rocks. Then you activate Noxious Breath again. And then you can either activate the Molten Whip prematurely, or you can just activate Noxious Breath for a second time, hit him with a Dizzying Swing, then do Light Attack and hit him with a Molten Whip. Now, another reason why we use Noxious Breath is because it applies a major breach, so that lowers the resistance, but then also, as you can see at the bottom right, I'm able to proc the Seething Fury whenever I want to. So, if I, say for instance, notice there's a target over there, right? Say there's a target over at this wall right here, right? Instead of running over to the target and then spewing fire at them, I can simply just stay right here, spew fire from a safe distance, alright, because most tunes that you fight in Cyrodiil or BGs, they tend to be very much close range fighters. I can literally just spray this from a distance, run over, spray them again, and then activate the combo. And I don't have to constantly spam in a Noxious Breath in the middle of it anymore. So it's very, very nice. And that's how I tend to be working a combo. And then leap is whenever necessary, but for the most part, leap will always come after Shattering Rock for the most part. So I literally run in, hitting with the Dizzying Swing, Shattering Rocks, then hit him with a leap, Molten Whip, Executor, right? That's preferred. Obviously, Noxious Breath comes in at the very beginning. That's a debuff. But yeah, that's how I'm normally be rocking my combo. Now, another reason why we run Shattering Rocks as well, besides a stun, is it grants us a minor brutality. And because we get a minor brutality from this, we're now increasing our weapon damage by 10%, which stacks with a rally. Stacks with rally, which grants us 20% weapon damage and spell damage, alongside granting us a minor endurance. So that right there is really keeping us alive, because we're able to do a lot of damage and we're getting stam recovery back. So in total, the build is really meant to be this endless motor, just constantly dealing damage, constantly in the fight. And the reason why we're also on a DK as well is because when you're using any ultimate, you gain resources back. For each point of an ultimate's cost, you're gaining 51 health, 50 magicka, and 50 stamina. So per point, the maximum amount of resources you can get back for your health, for instance, is 25,500, which stacks with other skills that you can have on your bar that I currently do have as well. For instance, Green Blood. The reason why it stacks is because you're getting a minor vitality. Getting access to a minor vitality, which basically just increases your healing received. So that heal, even though it's getting cut in half by Battle Spirit, is now better because of that. So in total, all you have to do is make sure that Green Blood's active and Rally's active, and when you drop an ultimate, you're going to get more heals because of that. So very, very nice in total. Very, very strong as well. And as well, whenever you activate a skill, you gain stamina back, which is helping us with our mortar, because we do have low stam, but we also have a lot of stam recovery coming in from our Retro Vitality. So much, in fact, that when it's fully procced and we're getting all of our passives proccing, we're getting up past 3k stam recovery, and we're sitting around like 1.3k mag recovery. Very, very good, considering that we're not a mag tune and we already have a low mag pool as it is. So this is helping us out. And as well, one of the downfalls of being a DK is everything costs a lot. So volatile armor is pretty cheap, this is pretty cheap, but this right here is not cheap. That is not cheap, and this is used offensively, so at times it may not be able, because we had to first hit him with this. This combo right here costs a total of 6k magicka, which, case you see at the very bottom left, that is half of my magicka. So having high mag recovery does help us out. So, well, it's not high, but having some type of mag recovery really does help us out and let us work. Getting back into the other skills, right? Shuffle, backbarred. Renner already went over it. Green Blood, I'll go over it more. We're not using it for the health, like the healing. It's nice that it gives us healing, but we're really using it for the major fortitude, the major endurance, which is helping us with our motor. The major endurance is more important, and obviously I went over the minor vitality. You can kind of just ignore the health recovery. It's really the stam recovery that we're trying to get. Now, yes, you can use potions to get you a major endurance, but if we can get it from our skills, it's better, because we can get it whenever we want to, versus a cooldown. So because we can get this whenever we want to, that is enabling us to reach that 3k stam recovery when we're fully procced. Volatile armor, pretty standard, dealing damage while gaining us a major resolve. It applies a dot to the target, and whenever someone attacks us, we deal damage back, and it scales off on resistance. So since I'm on my back bar, I'm now at 30k resistance. So when I'm defending myself, I'll deal the most amount of damage with this. Pretty strong, and that's another reason why we're stacking into resistance and we're R-Nord, because we do want this to hit as hard as possible. We want our volatile armor to do as much damage as possible, just to give us that little bit more of an edge. And then Cauterize is our heal. This is just to help out with sustain and our on-demand heal, because Rally is a pretty strong heal, but it requires timing for the most part to really get anything useful out of that heal. Green blood is not really a reliable heal. It only grants you 33% of your missing health, so it goes off of how low you are. So the lower you are, the more health you get, but it's still not that good of a heal. Coagulating blood's far better if you're using it as a heal. If you're using this as a sustain, then it's very different. And then when it comes to cauterize is cauterize. This is granting us a little bit more of a heal. And then Shattering Rocks, right? Shattering Rocks, I have to activate that on an enemy. So in total, Cauterize is the best spammable heal that I have. So this is the heal that I go to when I'm like, I need to spam out heals to keep myself alive until Rally is ready, in which case Rally can literally heal me up for my entire health bar. So that's the way we keep our sustain up. So in total, 4 heals, 3 on the back, 1 on the front, and then obviously our ultimate does grant us heals and sustain via as well. Getting into the back bar ultimate, corrosive armor is corrosive armor. Simply any damage we take, it only equivalates to 3% of our health, and then also deals poison damage to any nearby enemies per second for 12 seconds, while also any direct damage I deal to the enemy ignores their physical and spell pen. So this does, in theory, counteract battle orgs, because a big part of what people run battle orgs for is the pen, but not really, because when I'm on the front bar and I activate Ferocious Sleep, right, I'm still getting all the pen from battle orgs, while also getting all the weapon damage that I would still get even if I was on corrosive armor. So I'm still potentially getting 500 weapon damage on either bar, while also leaping into the enemy, dealing damage, flame damage particularly, and since there's a lot of vampires running around and we are not a vampire, we need to be able to do as much damage as possible to vampires. So with us having this flame damage coming in, we flow ourselves at them, get a damage shield, and deal flame damage and potentially stunning them. So very, very strong as well, both these ultimates. So just keep that in mind. And last thing to really go over in terms of passives is this right here. Whenever you deal damage with a burning or poison statics, it increases your damage. Alright, cool. But also when you apply this, it restores magicka, as in if you apply a burning status effect, which means, in case you didn't know, if I hit somebody with a flame skill, I have a chance to apply the status effect of burning, meaning I can activate this skill and take away basically 1000 of the magicka cost from it, because it instantly restores that. Same thing coming in from Noxious Breath. If I deal poison damage, instead of getting magicka back, I'm getting stamina back. So this helps us out with our sustain. Previously I was using Venomous Claw with a slightly different version of this build, because it immediately applied the poison status effect, basically nullifying the cost of Venomous Claw. I can activate Venomous Claw and get more stamina back than when I activated it, just because of how high our stam recovery is. So when this is fully procced, our stam recovery, and we're at 3k stam recovery, I activate this skill, I'm getting 2k stam back just for activating it. Basically, activating the skill granted me stamina back. It's almost as if I was running a skill like Leeching Strikes, where if you activate it at certain points, it'll grant you more stamina back than the actual cost of the skill. It's stuff like that. That's how powerful it is to making sure that you're applying these status effects and noticing what they do, because if you're able to apply these, then you'll be good. Now, I don't have all my CP set up to apply these status effects as much as I would like to, but just knowing that is half the battle, so to keep that in mind. As well, whenever I activate any Ardent Flame skill, I'm reducing their movement speed by 30%, which is basically a major expedition. So whenever you're trying to slow somebody down, make sure that you're hitting them with this Noxious Breath as well. This also is now also proccing your Molten Whip as well. So it's very, very good that we have this Noxious Breath on there instead of the Venomous Claw, because this has shorter range, and as well it does not apply a major breach to the enemy. So all things considered, very, very good. And as well, that skill, Noxious Breath, hits people in a cone. Now, World and Ruin increases the damage of our flame and poison attacks, which is making these skills hit a lot harder than they normally would. Now, the two-hand, this is the last part of how we're reaching a whole bunch of stam recovery. All I have to do is kill a target, and you're getting 30% stam recovery being applied to you. Now, this does stack with the major and minor endurance alongside the retro vitality, so that's how we're getting up to that 3k stam recovery. But without the 3k stam recovery, we're sitting at 2.5k. So, for reference, this is covered. So I activate this skill, I'm getting 500 stamina back. I activate this skill, I'm only losing 1000 stamina. I activate this skill, I'm getting basically almost 1000 stamina back. I activate this skill, I'm only losing 300 stamina. I activate this skill, only losing 100 stamina. So in total, this makes it where at no point do you ever really lose out on a lot of stamina. And in fact, the skills that I spam the most, potentially, I'm getting a majority of the stamina back, especially from Noxious Breath, because if it does apply the poison status effect to the target, boom, I'm now recovering all the cost of this skill. And without it, I'm only losing out on 100 stam, which ain't really much. So in total, you're doing very well in that scenario. As well, there's another passive to go over. When you do complete a fully charged heavy attack, the next direct damage attack you use deal additional 10%. We can combo that because again, we are running Vanish Rain 2-hand backbarred. If you do a fully charged heavy attack into a target, we can then combo that with the whip. And when we're running corrosive armor, which is the best time to personally use this, you're cutting through all of their physical and spell resistance, making this whip hit the absolute hardest it possibly can, which is very, very strong. Because once we get into the weapon damage of this build, you can quickly see the potential of this. So outside of that, there's not really any other passives to go over on the top of my head. So we're really just going to get into the experiment of this build so you can actually see the weapon damage, right? I have to switch this skill out to Molten Weapons. The reason I'm doing this is because I need to proc the Minor Brutality. So more or less, it's not really helping us out in any other way. This is just to get what we need. So let's start this. So we're fully buffed, resistance wise and sustain wise. That's our Minor Brutality. Just make sure I get everything up fully high. And in case you are wondering, yes, reaching 6.3k weapon damage is very reasonable when you're on this build. Now, you did see it only said 2k stam recovery. When you activate that, 2.5k. So that's the recovery you're sitting at. If I pop a potion, the mag recovery goes up by 300. Like, right here. I run tri-stat potions, by the way, and I'll go over those in a moment. But yeah. 3.3, yeah. Well, 1.3. Since I talked about potions, I'll quickly go over it. I normally run tri-stat potions. These are good. These are good. Doesn't really matter what you do. I'm running these potions, and I did have, these are my stealth detection potions. I say run all 3 of these, if possible, on your bars somewhere, because you do need them. Having access to these is very important. And then, let's go back to buffing. You already saw that we can reach 3.3k weapon damage, so I'm again going to buff up, and then we're going to look at this again, so you can see the weapon damage that we're reaching. Alright, so 6.3. Molten Whip's already at 20k. Oop, did is activated. Yeah. Already at 20k. Without really trying. So now I'm gonna activate Battle Lords in a moment. once I get a little bit more magicka back, so I can make sure I activate this. Just make sure these buffs are up. Do a light attack to proc and 7.5k weapon damage. The pen is actually, you know, astronomically high. That's off of corrosive. The actual cap we'll be sitting at is 18k. So, in total, very, very strong. Very, very good. And now, yeah, I mostly went over everything to really go about for the build. You know, last thing I will go over is poisons. These are like the minute things. If you don't want 7.5k weapon damage, because you're comfortable with 7k weapon damage, you can run these poisons, and what this will do is apply a dot to the target, dealing poison damage, which, again, if this applies a poison status effect, which it does have a chance of doing, you're getting stamina back, while also draining, the damage onto them and restoring you health for 2.1 seconds, drains their magicka and stamina, and increasing the cost of their magicka and stamina abilities by 10%, and restoring you 235 magicka for 2.3 seconds. Very, very strong, and this procs off of light attacks, heavy attacks, and weapon abilities. And since we have 2 weapon abilities on our bar, this skill and this skill, whenever we're using our spammable, this can proc. Whenever we use our execute, it can proc. So it's very, very good. Very, very strong. Let me put the skill back on here. And yeah, that's really it. You know, I suggest keeping the weapon damage glyph on, most because that's how I'm reaching most of my damage consistently. Because you saw right there, I was sitting at 6.3k weapon damage. If I had light attack, I would have been sitting at 6.7k weapon damage without battle orcs. It's amazing. This build is simply just amazing. So, all things being said, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, share it to people. Most definitely, this is one of the best StamDk builds out to this day. You know, current patch of Ascending Tide, I don't know many other StamDks that are better. Because we don't have everything that we need. We don't have our Daunted passives, which is a major thing. Because when we get our Daunted passives, we're going to be running One Piece Light, and that One Piece Light is going to grant us pen and weapon crit chance, which we do need. So that pen is going to be really good, and we'll be losing resistance, we're gaining back in more resources. We'll be sitting at 29k max health, 26k max stam, and 13k max magicka, making it where we can use more of our skills a lot more, and our skills become more effective, as in, because everything is now stacking off our max stam and weapon damage. Skills like Molten Whip, it's just going to hit a little bit harder. This is going to heal just a little bit better. This is going to do just a little more damage. Things of that nature. So, in total, very, very strong build. High potential. And, yeah, we're hitting fucking 7+k weapon damage with fucking blue gear on. And if you wanted to know, say, in a group environment, how viable it is, most of the time when people are in groups, they're in Cyrodiil. 10% weapon damage. You're getting more mag and stam recovery when you take a farm. Quite literally, I've reached 8k weapon damage before, and I'm gonna send a screenshot up in a moment. 8k weapon damage is possible by yourself. When you get into a group, you can reach that 8k weapon damage before you ult, but if you use ult afterwards, you're looking at 9k weapon damage. If they was to give you a major and minor courage, so if you know somebody that has Magma Incarnate and Spellpower Cure, you can run that, and boom, you're at 9k weapon damage. Shit, you can go into Imperial City with your friends, or go into Cyrodiil with your friends, and do a 3-man group, run Spellpower Cure, Minor Courage with this build, and also run Rallying Cry, and get nearly fucking at 10k weapon damage. It is very, very possible. And having this much weapon damage when you're fully buffed up is immaculate. And the fact that we can still activate Corrosive Armor and reach this damage means that we don't have to worry about what the resistance is. We're going to hit them extremely hard. It doesn't matter if you're a Vampire stage fucking 1,000,000. You're still going to get hit really hard. So that's why this build is super good. And that's also why we're not a vampire, because when you're fighting up against other vampires, a major thing is flame damage. I'm already taking a good amount of damage from this, and a lot of other people are reaching 7k weapon damage, meaning it's better not to be a vampire in this scenario and just try to bang it out with them. Now, this is my opinion, and I could 100% be wrong on it, but if you're able to survive the onslaught that they're giving you and run these health draining poisons, which you can survive the onslaught once you get your Undaunted passives and you're comfortable with this build, because you do have high resistances and high weapon damage, so you have strong healing power and you don't die as much. Very, very strong. And you apply these to the target, boom, now their resources are fucking they're out of whack. Most students that you fight can barely reach 2k recovery on their main stat, let alone getting past that and touching 3k. So it turns into a sustained battle, and that's what this build is set up to do. Last thing to really go over, CP, Blue Tree, Untamed Aggression, 150 weapon damage, Master at Arms, 10% damage, Ironclad, damage mitigation, so we're getting damage mitigation from Ironclad, we're getting direct damage increase. The only thing that doesn't get increased, for instance, is our dots, so Thermage does not really help us out too much, because we need our single target attacks and our AoE to do more damage. We don't really care too much about our dots. Our dots are extra. This last skill, Foresight, this is helping out our sustain, because I know I'm not Vampire Stage 3, but even if you was Vampire Stage 3, you will want to put this on your bar, especially next match, because there's going to be a spot open, so you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I can't put it on my bar. Next match, put it on your bar. When you drink a potion, the cost of your magic and stamina healing ability is used within 6 seconds and reduced by 75%. So you pop this potion, and literally everything's cheap. How cheap? Well, I showed you earlier how expensive my skills were. 4k, 2k, almost 3k, and 2.1. Activate the skill, 700, 1000, 500. And you saw my mag recovery earlier. So if I time this out perfectly, I can spam out Cauterize as much as I was saying I can spam it out without worrying about what my magicka is. So I can activate the skill, and then right after the skill gets activated, my mag recovery kicks in. Boom, I'm getting more magicka back than I used to activate the skill. And I can do that for 6 seconds while running Tri-Stat potions, which is granting me all my resources back. So when I do activate this rally, it's going to cost me nothing. It was at 700. That I'm good. When I activate this skill, I'm good. Now, it doesn't affect Shattering Rocks, because this is an offensive skill that happens to heal you. So any skill that is dedicated to healing is cheaper. So skills like Green Blood, Coagulating Blood, Rally, Cauterize, things of that nature become extremely cheap. You know, Resolving Vigor, you know, this skill becomes a lot cheaper. And in fact, if you don't like running Cauterize, you can simply just run Resolving Vigor. You can swap this out. But in my opinion, Cauterize is better, only because you are, you know, cautious of how many stamina skills you're using. You know, you do have the Magicka recovery, so you might as well use it, right? And this lasts for 15 seconds. You know, in order to have Resolving Vigor proc, I'll need to activate this every 4 seconds to keep it up. Now, this is just personal preference. It's really up to you, but for me, I feel Cauterize is better, and that's just me. Obviously, it's really up to you once you get this build, but yeah, with all that being said, let's check out the gameplay.